Rockets. Okay, welcome into episode 34 of Two Man Game with Damon and Dom. I'm Damon, that's Dom, and you are the listener. Before we get into it today, please like the video on YouTube, comment on the video, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our podcasts. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you're following so, again, you don't miss any of the episodes. Give us 5 stars and interact with us, interact with our polls. Let us know what you think. We want to hear what you have to say. Episode 34, we just finished watching the exciting overtime Pacers victory over the Bucks. We'll get into that later. But we're going to talk about the whole first week of playoffs. Most series have gone 3 games or 2 games. Some game 3s are going on, Clippers, Mavs right now. But before we do any of that, before we talk about what we say, episode 34, Hakeem Olajuwon episode, by the way. That's who I'm shouting out. Third best center of all time, maybe second. There's an argument to be made there. Blocks leader, that's important. Dom, how are you?
Shaquille O'Neal episode.
We already did him two episodes ago.
We're doing him again. Actually, you're right. Wait, was Wendell Carter? Is he 32 or 34
He's
right now?
34 as well.
Wendell Carter Jr. episode. No, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. It was really fun. You and I both kind of watched the very end of the overtime Bucks Pacers game just now while we were setting up. So that was pretty fun. We used to watch a lot of games together. So that was kind of nice just to, at the very end, just kind of get a little taste of it. I'm sure once the finals happen, maybe even like conference finals, we'll watch some games together. That'll be fun. But I'm doing good. It's Friday. I worked from home today. It was a good day. Did my job, and I'm excited for the weekend. I have a lot planned this weekend. I got a lot of birthday parties to go to. Very excited. I'll shout out a few people. Happy birthday, Miranda Meadows. Happy birthday, Preston Perry. Happy birthday, Nick Torchon. Happy birthday, Matt Beauchamp. Those are 4 birthday things I have to go to this weekend.
You just had to give their whole government name out there, huh?
Yeah. So now take their take their social security numbers and I'm gonna make them watch the pod.
Exactly.
Now they
I
have to
shouted
watch.
you out.
That's how you have to watch the pod. But no, it's been good. I played a very big show on Wednesday with my band. That went really well. It was a lot of fun.
It's called Ugly Side Up, guys.
Thanks. That is the band. And we played at the Echo here in Los Angeles, and it was a really fun time. Had a great show. And I've just been watching a lot of basketball recently. So I know you're going to see a movie tonight, right?
Yeah, I'm going to see Monkey Man. I have about an hour and a half until I have to leave for that, so I'm not late because you never know with Austin traffic.
But how are you doing? How are you doing as well?
Otherwise, I'm doing good. I actually played basketball earlier today after I got off work. I got off about 3:30, went and played basketball until about 6, and then I came home, showered, set up, finished watching the Pacers game with you, and now here we are. So it's a busy Friday, and then I don't have any plans really for the rest of the weekend. Just going to be watching basketball because that's what I've been doing, watching a lot of basketball. So yeah, it's a good time of the year. A lot of these series have been really competitive, even if they're 2-0 or 3-0. A lot of the games have been competitive.
Most of them. We'll talk about the ones that aren't.
Well, yeah, there've been a couple stinkers here and there, but a lot of these are pretty good. Good solid basketball to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. This has been I've probably the playoffs have been most excited for in a long time. Just because I think there's a lot of young players now who are being showcased. I mean, like just in like this game, we're going to talk about Tyrese Halliburton have the winning shot. First year as an all-star, so very cool to see things like that instead of just seeing like LeBron and Steph Curry like all the way to the finals. Like that's probably not going to happen this year. So it's cool. I like seeing that.
Well, certainly won't be Steph Curry because that guy's in Cabo.
He's already out. Yeah. But what are you wearing real quick? What merch? What we got here?
Another reveal here. This is my new merch that I got, as well as my Target Eastern one I wore last time. This is a Houston Rockets Dunkstronaut, a blue sweatshirt. The Dunkstronaut is so good. I saw it for sale. It's actually really, really nice, like soft, comfy material. It's a great sweater. I like it a lot. I'm so glad that it was on sale. I think normally it's like $75, and I think I got it for like 35. So.
Yeah, I'm very jealous because I've been looking at this NBA store all week for like deals, and there are no good deals. I almost bought a Lakers blanket because I was like, like a throw blanket, like it's not bad to have. I go to the beach, and I was like, you know what? I don't need one. I have one, so I was like, I'm not gonna force myself to buy it. But what I am wearing is hold on, doing the reveal. So
Dramatic.
unzipping the jacket, and I'm wearing the Lakers 2020 championship shirt
Oh,
because I'm
okay.
reliving the glory days.
Yeah, I wonder why.
We'll talk about that later. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but we did win in 2020, and that's all that matters to me as at this moment right now. But yeah, I found this in the back of my dresser. I haven't worn it in a while. I don't know
I say, I
why.
feel like you
So
said you had pretty much worn all your Lakers attire.
I
Um,
found this today. Yeah, I was just trying to find a shirt to wear at home, and I stumbled upon this and said, I don't think I've worn it. And I checked, and I haven't. Um,
well,
yeah. So I,
I
I
think
like what we're wearing.
I think
We're looking
another
good.
reason to be so excited about these playoffs is that we have a podcast now and talk about it.
Oh my
So,
God. Yeah,
that
instead of
adds to
just
the
me,
excitement.
instead of you driving home or me driving home and we just calling each other like,
Yeah.
oh, isn't this crazy? Like, did you see that with that play? That was crazy. Now we're like saving for the pod. We're texting each other about it. Now we're gonna it's
Yeah,
fun
I feel
looking at
like
all this
we'll text each
together.
other and it's like, yeah, I saw.
Yeah, no, literally, it's like, or like I said something, you're like, actually, it was this, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right, my bad, my bad. Which we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, a lot to catch up on. Glad you're doing well. Let me know how the movie is. I'm actually gonna go play basketball Sunday as well with some
Oh,
friends.
nice.
So,
I don't remember getting
um,
invited, but that's okay.
all right, come on down.
All right.
But before we get into some playoff updates, there's just a couple news things real quick that we want to talk about. I read this and I thought this was crazy. So Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat is the only player in NBA history with at least 1,000 threes in his first 350 games. And that's he made 1,012 in 349 games. That's
Yeah,
a lot. That's a
I
lot.
I feel like I remember Duncan Robinson in his, come up kind of breaking a lot of Heat records at least for threes and made it a span. So I'm not surprised, honestly. I think what's crazy about this is that Duncan Robinson is 30. But he didn't, he was undrafted. He spent 5 years in college. He was a two-way G League player for a while. So nice to see, and nice to see he's kind of back after having an off season or two for the Heat. He's kind of back being a key player for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, making good, big shots, making big plays. We'll talk about it a little bit later. We'll talk about the Celtics and Heat series. But yeah, happy for him. And I know he's a player that you are a fan of.
Yeah, he
So,
used to have a podcast. He hasn't made an episode in like 2 years, but you know,
oh,
that was
crazy.
that was a fun podcast while it lasted.
Oh, well, maybe he'll do it again probably after, maybe during the off season or something.
Yeah,
But
that's what I thought, but then like that the last season happened and then he didn't.
he's
So
like, yeah, I'm on an NBA team now and I'm really good and I break records, so
I
I'm
well,
I'm
I think
doing
it
the
was
pod.
I think it was because he had like a lackluster year after the year prior, and people were kind of like, you know, being social media people, like get off of your podcast and work on your game.
And he said, "You know what? I am.
I am
I'm gonna do
okay.
it. You're right, Mister Kitty 4911. That was
Jeez.
just a random username I came up with. Pretty good.
In other news, exciting news as well, another shooter in our days. The Charlotte Hornets are interviewing JJ Redick, who's actually on the broadcast for this Mavericks Clippers game right now, for their head coaching job. So yeah, that's interesting. Obviously a basketball mind. He's had his own podcast for a very long time. The Old Man the Three recently started the new podcast with LeBron. Obviously played in the NBA for several years and was, fulfilled his role, legend at Duke. What are your thoughts on JJ Redick getting interviewed for
Yeah,
the job?
definitely a basketball mind. I enjoyed watching clips from Old Man the Three, but I've been watching whenever Mind the Game comes out with LeBron and JJ. Been watching those and they are very, very good. I really love how they explain the game. My only kind of concern is one that you actually brought up to me is because I think he's a great mind, but I think starting off as a head coach is a really big responsibility. And I don't know if he knows everything that goes into being a head coach off the bat. Because on the podcast, he talks about coaching his son's like middle school team. And I'm like, it's not the same as the NBA.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, but what are your thoughts too?
No, I think that's interesting because I feel like coaches of teams at a school are usually have to also be like a teacher. So it's like they're just
Yeah, isn't that
pulling in
interesting?
JJ Redick, like, hey, come coach. Um, Yeah, I think the like you mentioned, the first time and you're immediately a head coach thing is kind of weird. Even, I think I mentioned to you, this kind of reminded me of Steve Nash when he was hired for Brooklyn, for that position, and he had never had any sort of assistant coaching jobs. I think he was on the Warriors staff for several years, doing like player development or something like that. Um, so that's, even that is like more experience than I think JJ Redick has. And obviously he only had about 2 years on the Nets, kind of flamed out, got blamed for a lot of their problems, and has not had a coaching job since then. So a little worried that that could happen. The Hornets are kind of a disaster of a franchise too. I know Michael Jordan sold his share, and I think they have kind of new ownership, so maybe the direction will change. But you had, you know, uh, the Kai Jones thing, you had the James Bouknight thing with the DUI. LaMelo never plays. Like that franchise just has a lot of like bad stuff. So it's a tough task to take on that job, I think.
Miles Bridges also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the worst one.
Yeah. The worst one. Yeah. Also what I wanted to also mention is that Steve Nash was mostly hired because KD is a big fan of
Right.
him because he worked with him on the Warriors. So, I don't know who was it, the new management who brought JJ Redick in, or was it the players? I don't feel like there's a player who has that much clout on the Hornets though to be like, I want JJ Redick to be my head coach, you know.
You don't think
So
Mark Williams was like, "Hey, JJ Redick, I love that guy."
oh, that guy, he has a good podcast. Wait, he was in the NBA? What? I could see that happening. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think I really like what he has to say about basketball. I think he has a great mind behind it. So we'll see what happens. I'm interested for the Charlotte Hornets to do anything. So this is something.
Right.
And we mentioned ownership just recently, but calling back to a few of our episodes, back to the
This will be five
Timberwolves.
episodes in a row. It's talking about
Yeah,
this.
so just kind of to nip it. Well, we're gonna keep talking about it. It's not over just yet, but a mediation session has been set for May 1st, which is next week, for Timberwolves ownership. Glen Taylor looking for his billions, Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lore. So A-Rod and Lore, they're pushing to restore the original agreement of them taking majority ownership. So hopefully this mediation can at least, smooth out whatever problems are happening and going on. And hopefully whatever the decision is, it's for the best for the fans and for the team, because that's what matters at the end of the day. Not about the billions, not about the money. It's about, because they're doing great right now. And I think they, should keep this momentum going to the off season with management. So we'll see. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think, the original, if people hadn't been listening, the original dispute was Glenn Taylor sold the majority ownership to these two, and then revoked that deal once it was revealed that he or they weren't going to pay the luxury tax next year, because the Timberwolves are going to be a very expensive team. So then he was like, "No, we want to be good, so I can't actually sell this to you." And now they're like, "Huh, you can't back out on us," and now they're arguing and tweeting at each other, which is just silly. But um, Glenn Taylor will keep his billions, hopefully, and the team, he'll give it to the team and pay the players, so we can keep having this successful team move on. Because we'll talk about their series with the Suns, but so far so good.
Yeah, I also just want to add real quick before we move on that when we first brought this up, Glenn Taylor was known for saying, now it's personal. A-Rod and Mark Lore, they're not allowed in the stadium, in the locker room. And watching game 2 of the series, all three of them were there. They showed them on the broadcast. They were not sitting next to each other,
I bet not.
but they were at the game all together in the stadium. So maybe that means something. At least that's I think better than them not being there at all. You know what I mean? So they're all
Yeah.
there. At the end of the day, they're there to support the team. I
He
think that's
has
what
like he has
matters.
like wanted posters of their face outside the stadium.
If
Do
seen,
not allow.
call. Yeah.
Keep away from my billions.
Yeah, and it's A-Rod on the. It's like he's wearing like thick glasses and a giant beard, and he has like it's like I think that's A-Rod sitting front row. It's like and he has like a baseball bat. And he's like, no, it's not. It's not me. Come on.
He's wearing his Yankees uniform.
Yeah, he's wearing. It's like I would never wear. If I was A-Rod, would I wear my Yankees uniform? Come on. He's like, that's a really good point. It must not be him.
Anyways, Last bit of news before we get into the playoff updates of our series so far. Award finalists. So the award finalists weren't announced, and as the playoffs progress, there are some winners also being announced. So three of them have actually had winners announced. Some of them were kind of waiting on. They just kind of throw it out randomly. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
this guy won the award like randomly throughout the days.
Yeah, the NBA Instagram sent out a thing like, here's the schedule for announcements for the awards, which I've never seen before. And it was like Monday, we're gonna do six man of the year, Tuesday, most improved player, or it's flipped, but it was just like we're gonna announce it at this time on this day. Say, why don't you just tell us? I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
It's like they want everyone to react to that award for one day, and then they'll move on.
Yeah, I
Uh,
guess. Which I kind of get too, but also it's never been done like that before, I don't think. So it's just strange. But
Yeah,
you
let's
know,
get into them.
yeah.
For MVP, the top three finalists: Jokic, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic. I think no surprise there. I think that's who most people had in their top three. I, of course, had Giannis, who I think will probably finish at number four, because I value the defense and what he's been able to do for the Bucks despite their coaching troubles and
Yeah.
such. But I'm perfectly happy with these top three. Do you have any complaints, thoughts, anything?
No, no complaints or anything. Comments though is just that it's all West, all players in the West. I
Mhm.
thought was interesting, which is something we've touched on when we went over awards. But that's of course I'm very excited to see who wins it. They've all done an incredible thing by leading their team and they're great and basketball players all around. Or do you want to switch off? Like we'll take
Yeah,
turns.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
okay.
that that
That's
was
yeah, yeah. So then DPOY, Defensive Player of the Year. The three finalists are Bam Adebayo, Rudy Gobert, and Victor Wembanyama.
yes. My exact top three, by the
Yeah,
way. So I'm a genius looking in the defensive ratings and figuring it out. I kind of said Wimby as a joke, but apparently it was not a joke. I was like, nope, this guy's awesome, even though
I
his team
yeah,
defense is kind of lackluster. But
yeah. I think, and again, like what we talked about. I think it's about Defensive Player of the Year, not Defensive Player and on the best defensive team or whatever. You know what I mean? So the amount of times I've seen Wimby just blocking the hell out of people is has been crazy this year. So I'm happy for him. What do you think? Are you happy with the three? I mean, I'm assuming you are, but
yeah, I perfectly predicted three, so I am totally good with that. I thought they were the three best. So I did, probably Anthony Davis right outside here. I didn't even have him on my all defensive team, so that was wrong. But I mentioned that like three podcasts in a row because I can't get over it.
yeah. But I know there were some comments he came out with like yeah, I can't believe I'm not a finalist this year. He was saying like a lot of like I deserve to be a finalist type stuff. And I was like, don't worry, AD, I got you. Don't worry, listen to my pod, I got you.
Yeah, and then sixth man of the year. The three finalists were Malik Monk, Naz Reid, and Bobby Portis. Uh,
Who wins it? Who won it?
who won it was Timberwolves legend Naz Reid, winning sixth man of the year. Is that who you had as sixth man of the year?
That is who I had.
That is who you
Yeah.
had.
But I didn't have Bobby Portis in my final three.
Yes, I think I had Malik Monk winning, and then I had Naz Reid at two, and
Hmm.
I think I had Norman Powell as my third
That's who I
player.
had. Yeah.
Okay. And then I know there were also shout outs for Bogdan Bogdanovic. He had a great season, but the
Yeah.
Hawks are just a disaster. Um, but yeah, Naz Reid won it. That's great. I think there was a quote even before this came out where he said, "I'm the best player off the bench in the league." Um, and I think Russell Westbrook also said the same thing, but he's not up here, so you know.
Well, now he's got the hardware to prove it. So
Yeah.
very happy for Naz Reid. He's been doing great so far in the series as well in the playoffs. So yeah, very happy for him and the Timberwolves.
And Timberwolves just play awesome, team basketball. So
Yeah, love to see it. Rookie of the year, we have our finalists are Chet Holmgren, Brandon Miller, Victor Wembanyama. No surprises
I
whatsoever.
didn't even realize that I skipped that.
Yeah,
That was
no, you
not on
did.
purpose.
I know. It's okay. Don't worry. I clocked it and I got you. This is a two-man game, dude. This is a two-man game.
Oh,
You like that?
wow. Roll the
Yeah.
credits. Play the song
Roll.
again.
Boom, boom,
Uh,
boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I can do a cappella. Dom's at the ball.
how
Is
do you
that
do the
Dom's at
music?
the I said
Dom is
Dom's
at
at
the
the
ball.
ball. I
How
need
do
the
you do the
lyrics.
music and the lyrics at the same time? That sounds really hard.
I will figure it out
Okay.
because that's what I believe in. But yeah,
We'll edit it
any
in post.
it's all post. Let's just be honest. We edit the hell out of this podcast, obviously. But yeah, any comments on Rookie of the Year?
Nope. Wimby's gonna win.
Wemby's gonna, yeah, that's basically all. That's it.
Yeah. Nominated for two awards in your rookie year is crazy.
I was thinking that as well. Also, one that's pretty defensive player of the year. That is, sometimes you think like, so six man of the year, maybe I could see a rookie being because like they're not going to be in the starting lineup.
Right.
But defensive player of the year means like you're the best and most important player on defense in the league as
Top
a
three,
rookie
right.
is crazy, crazy, crazy. Like most improved player wouldn't make sense for a rookie. Like I could see six man of the year going to a rookie, but defensive player of the year is crazy.
Guy that's terrible in college comes out and balls in the NBA, wins most
Yeah,
improved
he's
player.
like, yeah, he comes in like it's like picked last and then leads like the Detroit Pistons to the finals and they win. It's like I guess he's most improved.
Oh
Um,
goodness. Yeah,
tell
it's
me
because
about the
Wimby's
coach.
8 feet tall and like has a wingspan of like a pterodactyl, so I guess
Yeah,
defense is pretty good.
and he's playing great basketball too.
Yeah. And moving on to coach of the year, three teams that played great basketball. Thunder's Mark Daignault, Timberwolves Chris Finch, and Jamal Mosley of the Magic. I believe this was my top three.
It was your
Um,
top three. Yeah, I
yeah.
had Michael Malone instead of Jamal Mosley, which was it was a mistake.
We're gonna get into Heat Celtics, but still Eric Spoelstra, zero coach of the years, by the way. Um, just know it's out there. I mean, you can't win coach of the year like the 8 seed, so I get that, but like they were like the 1 seed 2 years ago.
Yeah,
So,
I
you know.
agree. Yeah, it's really nice that they put Chris Finch and Jamal Mosley here because Mark Daigneault's going to win anyways. So
Yeah, there's like here are the other two, I guess. No Joe Mazzulla love for the team that had like 15 games above everybody else, but that's what happens when you have good players, I guess.
yeah,
It's not
exactly.
the
I mean,
coach actually.
I think yeah, at least as a coach, I think I hope he's not concerned about not being nominated. I wonder if on the bench like should have been nominated coach of the year. Like we're up by 60. I should have been coach of the year. Look at this. This is amazing.
Also,
Um,
since he did the All-Star game last year, Doc Rivers did the All-Star game this year after being the coach for like 8 days. That was fun.
crazy. Okay, so most improved player. This was the one that was actually announced first. I think that was on Monday or Tuesday. The finalists were Tyrese Maxey, Kobe White, and Alperen Şengün, which was very interesting. I don't know if I think I had him on my questionable because I don't know if he qualified. But Tyrese Maxey won the award, and
Yes.
that's who I had.
Yep.
But your list was very similar as well. I know you had Kobe White winning, but
Yeah,
you,
I had
yeah,
Kobe White winning. He had the 10-point jump when Max did the 5-point jump, and was relatively inefficient, I think. But I think Tyrese Maxey was going to win, you know. I thought Kobe White was more deserving, but I did think Tyrese Maxey was likely going to get the votes.
yeah.
Especially with Embiid being injured and him being the one option on that team
The
for a while.
narrative. It's
Uh,
almost always the narrative.
Yeah, Şengün is so interesting for the Rockets. I think I was reading into some of the like discrepancies with the 65 game policy, and I think I don't know like what the exact policy is. I cannot quote it to you, but I think it's something along the lines of like if you have a season-ending injury, like we can still qualify you. But it's just so
Mm,
weird that he like yes he was playing really awesome, but it feels so long ago. Like he got
yeah.
injured like 2 months ago.
I
Um,
feel like we mentioned people who were a bit more relevant closer throughout the whole season. Although, I
no
mean,
J Dub love.
yeah, I was pretty irked because I was actually I was watching. It was one of the TNT Inside the Game with Ernie, Kenny, Shaq, and Chuck, right? And they were kind of going over their three, and Ernie was the only one who brought up Jalen Williams. I was like, okay, finally someone's talking about him for most improved player. Like, come on, it's crazy. Second year and like what he's doing on this Thunder team, but
So you're identifying with Ernie. Okay. The one
Ernie the Jet Smith,
the
yeah.
one guy on the TNT crew.
Well,
So interesting.
all I'm saying is you also said Jalen Williams, so you're also related to the only white guy.
I am 75% white. People don't know that. But
People, we don't talk about it enough on the pod.
I let's go back to episode 25.
Yeah, let's go back to that. Yeah, and just talk about it there. Don't worry, we'll bring it up there on episode 75.
Tune in.
Yeah,
Um,
tune in.
we're halfway there.
Um, yeah, but so how do you feel about Tyrese Maxey winning it? You're pretty okay
Uh,
with it?
yeah, I mean it's whatever. Like, yes, he had a more important role in his team and fulfilled that role.
Yeah.
It's the like above average player to star jump, and I think that happens a lot. I will say I think this playoff run so far has solidified this pick. Like it makes it better for me because he's played really well in that series so far.
Yeah. Also the only player that top, the three that is in the playoffs
Right.
officially. So makes sense to me.
Yeah, and then the last award here, Clutch Player of the Year, a new award. I think this is year 2 of its iteration. The top 3 finalists were Steph Curry, DeMar DeRozan, and SGA. And it was announced that Steph Curry, Clutch Player of the Year, which I think was my pick. I don't really remember. I think that's who I had. I believe I had Steph at 1, DeRozan at 2, Jokic at 3.
Yeah, I think that, and then I don't know. I remember who I had
I think
winning
you had
it,
SGA at 1,
and
Curry at
then Steph,
3.
and then Jalen Brunson. I remember I had Brunson on there.
Brunson, yeah. So I mean, a lot of our picks, a lot of our top 3 pretty close. And I think it's important, like, yes, we did some sort of looking up into the odds, but I think a lot of our picks were based on what we've watched this year,
Oh yeah.
a little bit of statistic research that we've done, whatever that was. We didn't look at, oh, okay, they're going to vote for Tyrese Maxey. Let's put Tyrese Maxey. It was a lot of our own picks, and we got pretty close on a lot of these awards. So
Yeah. No, I'm proud
give
of us
me a vote,
too.
Adam Silver.
Come on, give the pod a vote. Come on. Look at us. We got friends of the pod left and right. It's crazy how many friends of the pod we have.
And I mean, it's like crazy because there's uh people that have votes like beat reporters and stuff for certain franchises. I think it was the Utah Jazz beat reporter, maybe like last year or 2 years ago, voted like Lauri Markkanen for MVP or something like that. Like some people don't take it seriously. I will take it seriously. I'm not just because I'm a Rockets fan does not mean it's going to be all Rockets ballot.
Yeah, of course. And of course it's going to be a full Lakers ballot if it's me. So definitely give it to me because we don't have enough love, obviously. Um
And in year 22, LeBron James his fifth
Most
MVP.
improved player. I don't know if it could be a thing. It's gonna. But yeah, I'm happy with Steph Curry winning, excuse me. And I am, it's obvious he's a clutch player, and with it's being his second year, I feel like it's almost like the classic players are winning it. De'Aaron Fox is famously clutch. Steph Curry's also in more ways than De'Aaron Fox a clutch player. So, happy for Steph. You had the stats to, kind of back up his claim. So,
Go back and listen.
go back and listen. Happy for him. Unfortunately, he's not in the playoffs. Two of these players aren't in the playoffs. So how clutch were they?
Well, that's the thing about Clutch Player of the Year is that their team was always in close games. Therefore, they had to be clutch. Because the Warriors and Bulls were in 50-50 games a lot because their team was not very good. Which
Oh,
is
oh,
why they had the clutch stats to back it up.
and I remember I had SGA, but you didn't put him because you're like he didn't have a lot of close
He doesn't have a
games
lot of
because
close
they
games. They just kill them.
yeah
They just slaughter their opponents. Yeah.
yeah. So it is interesting, but
It's like a faulty award.
yeah, in a way. But since we're talking about SGA, and I think let's just dive right into the playoff updates. What do you think? How are we
Let's talk
feeling?
about the playoffs. We're going to go in bracket order, I think, is the way to do it. We'll go west and then east. Does that sound fine for you?
Yeah, let's do
I,
it.
I
We just
arranged the teams perfectly this time. I made sure I made no mistakes. I had a mistake in the last one. I was like, I'm not doing it again.
yeah, that's one thing I like about you. You're thorough. Who
I was
else
about
is
to say I'm
thorough?
thoroughbred, but that means something that I don't think I really.
Thoroughbred?
Yeah.
Like
Like,
a horse?
yeah.
No, you're a human being, Damon. Okay, you're a human being.
Who do you think you are? I
I
am.
am. Quote of the pod.
That guy's gonna sue us.
No, he can try. He'll never find us.
That's true. I'm gonna name this episode Who Do You Think You Are? I
Yes, please,
Am.
please. And also, who do you think you are? I am. Thank you, Nasreed.
Thank you.
That's it. But first series we're gonna dive into Oklahoma City Thunder and New Orleans Pelicans. So, uh,
2-0.
2-0, Thunder are up in the series. They are
Thunder
playing
up.
tomorrow. Game 3, first game in New Orleans. First game, Thunder Pelicans, very close.
Hmm.
Pelicans had a lead a lot of the time in this game, but the Thunder came out. So it ended up being tied, and then SGA being one of the clutch, nominated for clutch player, made a beautiful floater shot and took the Thunder up 2, and the Pelicans just had no response. And it was a very low scoring game, only 94-92. But watching that game, I was very excited for the series because it was very, it was physical, a lot of defense. I was excited to see what will happen in the next few games. And game 2 was a disappointment as
Mm.
the Thunder just blew out the Pelicans to take that 2-0 lead.
Yeah.
Also worth noting that Zion Williamson did not play in either game as he is still injured.
Yeah. Pelicans scored 92 points in both games, but the Thunder scored 30 more points in the second game. So, you know.
Wow, I actually I see that now. I didn't even consider that. Wow, that is crazy. What if everyone scored the exact same amount of points too?
That would be crazy.
Yeah, and then the 30 is like who's someone ran get Gordon Hayward on the Thunder. He just made 30 points.
Uh,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
takeaways
takeaways. I mean, I watched
is
the first game. I didn't watch the second one. It was when I was working, so I wasn't it. Did you watch both games?
yes, I watched a fair amount of both games. Of course, we are a hashtag Extreme East podcast here, so it's not always reliable, but when it is working, you get a good amount of watching in. Um, Yeah, my takeaways from this, Shea's clearly the best player in the series. Brandon Ingram has been in the torture chamber. Lou Dort has been locking him up, and they've been trying to set screens and switch the matchup, and Lou Dort just fights through them every time. The guy's like built like a tank. He has been doing a great job defending him. I think the players like Jose Alvarado that typically rattle teams is not working on the Thunder, which I think is so interesting because they're really young and inexperienced, but they're so well coached and like they're playing their style of basketball in their system, and I think it's working very well. And it feels like the Pelicans more than anything have been frustrated in these games. Brandon Ingram with Lou Dort, and then when their stuff isn't working um, they get frustrated. And then I wanted to point out the Valanciunas Chet matchup. Because Valanciunas in game 2, he scored the first 11 points for the Pelicans. They kept giving him down low, and he would just kind of move Chet out the way, layup, easy every time. And then I was worried. I was like, uh-oh, like this is going to be exploited. This could be like a thing. And then Chet brought Valanciunas out to the perimeter, made three threes in a row on him. Because he was just too slow to keep up. So I was like, oh, well, three is more than two, so they win. Um, and yeah, I think that's really interesting because they were not, they could have subbed him out for Bismack Biyombo or someone a little more physical. But they said, no, we're just going to run our style of ball. Um, and they kind of played Valanciunas off the floor. He didn't do a lot of the rest of the game. I do think it's interesting in future series. Perhaps they're going to play the winner of the Mavericks Clippers. Daniel Gafford and Zubac, like those guys aren't super great centers, but they are big and physical. And then Western Conference Finals, if they make it that far, Jokic or Gobert or Towns or whoever, that's going to be a
Or
problem.
Nurkic? Come
Or
on, dude.
true, or AD. Yeah.
Mm.
Uh,
We'll get there.
but yeah, the Thunder have just been kind of playing their ball. Brandon Ingram has looked very frustrated. I think the only Pelican that has looked really consistently good is Trey Murphy. I love Trey Murphy. That guy can shoot the ball from anywhere. And I always think it's going to go in. And so yeah, second game wasn't fun to watch. The first game was a lot more fun, but a good series so far. Really sad we can't get the Zion Chet matchup, like you mentioned, Zion being injured. Because I think his physicality would be a real problem for the Thunder. Because they are
Absolutely.
they are a little skinny and a little small. So
Yeah.
sucks that we missed out on that. I think, we talked about don't mess with the basketball gods. But if the Lakers tanked and played this team instead, it would be an interesting series because I think Anthony Davis would have a field day with these guys, but that didn't happen. So
Yeah. I do want to say thank you for your analysis on both those games about the Alvarado. I think a big reason why, at least personally, why I think they're not being rattled is because I think they're because Alvarado's young and they're young. So they're not like, why is this little kid trying to? They're, you know what I mean? Because I feel like if like Alvarado comes up to LeBron James, starts chirping at him, he's like, dude, I'm like 55. Like, what are you doing? Whereas like I'm a Thunder member, I'm like, okay, I'm 23 as well. You're 20, like it's like okay, like I don't know. I feel like they're used to playing with people like that. I don't know. I feel like when I'm playing people the same age as me, I'm not as rattled as like someone who's older. Like I feel like Patrick Beverly might be getting under their skin if they were in the matchup. This is me just conjecture, but I think that's kind of like
That's an
what
interesting
I've
point.
seen. Yeah, but I agree. The first game was really fun to watch. I was hoping for a Pelicans win because I wanted a close series. Thunder will win the series, but wanted something, and Valanciunas was playing really well, but then, you know, had to sub him out. Nance came in, and then, the rest is history.
Yeah,
Um,
I also want to point out too, two things. Jalen Williams has looked very electric in the series. He's been a great secondary scorer. We haven't even talked about Shea. Shea has been Shea. He has been not as involved, not like running the offense as much, but like you mentioned, that first game when you get down to the clutch, to give it to that guy, and he'll get you that mid-range shot that always seems to go in. Jalen Williams has been really hyped up. He made a shot, I think got fouled on it. It was lying on his back on the floor and was just like screaming at the ceiling. And then the other end of that, Chet has been killing Valanciunas and the Pelicans with his shooting and his even some of his rebounding and putbacks. He's been so like stone faced the whole time. Which it's his second year, but really it's his rookie year because he didn't play last year. But he's been so like poised, which I think is really interesting because he's so young. Um, and that's been nice to see.
yeah. Last thing I'll say about the series, then we can move on. Number one, Jalen Williams, wear to the same shoe, please. You're driving me
Was he
crazy.
wearing two different shoes?
Yes.
I didn't
Start
even
just
notice that.
different colors. They're the same shoe but different colors. I'm like, brother, just wear the same color on both feet. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Number two, I really liked that it was a post-game interview. I think game one, they were asking about, like I think it was Jalen Williams or it wasn't Shea. It was someone else. They were asking them about, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He got nominated he's top three MVP voting. How do you feel about that? And it was very much like a team. They said he's our leader. He is the MVP. I don't care what the votes say. And I love that. It was very much like you could tell they're a unit. They're standing together and they're playing great basketball. So it's cool
Adding
to see.
adding on to that post-game press conference, yeah, they had like four, they do the microphones up to people and ask them like after the game, but it was like four Thunder guys all like at the microphone. And that was
Yeah.
cool. Like you said,
Yeah.
that's like a unit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit about these Clippers Mavericks game. Game three is on right now, but we have a game one and
Yeah,
game two to kind of
Russell
talk
Westbrook
about.
just elbowed Luka out of bounds on a corner three.
My stream freezed literally on Luca like falling out of bounds,
Yeah.
and Russell Westbrook over him like,
Yeah. Yeah, I did want to say I wanted to say before we dove into Thunder Pelicans, just playoff observations overall, very physical. Not a lot of
mhm.
foul calls, a lot of getting into people's shirts and kind of, they're letting people hand check, and a lot of players are doing this little shrug. They're like, "Where's my call? Where's my call?" Trying to foul
Yeah,
bait, and they're not calling it, and I love that.
yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
sometimes there should be fouls. There's some no calls that I'm like, okay, wait, that was bad though.
And sometimes there shouldn't be calls when they're giving calls because they're just like kicking out their legs and like we'll
We'll
talk
get
a little
into
bit
that.
about yeah, exactly. Okay.
Ugh. But yeah, Clippers Mavs 1-1. So the Clippers won game one 109 to 97. Mavericks offense was really struggling this game. It just seemed like they couldn't make a shot when they needed to. And the Clippers, without Kawhi, who was out for this game, were hitting when they needed to, and kind of, 12 points doesn't seem like a blowout, but it felt like the Clippers had this game in the bag for most of the game. I think the Mavericks kind of played catch up at the end there to make the score
Yeah.
better. Um,
Halftime, I believe it was 60-37.
yeah, so it felt like a Clippers game from the get-go. And then game two was a lot closer. The Mavericks ended up winning 96 to 93. The Mavericks played physically. They competed on both ends of the floor, and they beat the Clippers with Kawhi. So Kawhi comes back and you lose. Kawhi Leonard is trash. No,
Washed,
but
washed.
he may be a little rusty getting his legs back under him. I know he was dealing with knee inflammation. Um, but it also just could be the Mavericks were playing better because their offense wasn't playing very good in game one. So yeah, 1-1 series. Game three right now it looks like Mavericks are going to go into halftime with the lead, based on what I'm seeing on the stream down here. But what about you? What did you have? What have you taken away from the series so far?
Yeah, so I missed game one. I wasn't able to watch it. I also want to say that I have been looking at tickets for all the games here in LA to try and go to. Game two was a possible, uh, was probably the cheapest. It was going to be like $65, but I decided that instead of spending money for that, if it comes, it will come to a game five. But if tickets are cheap enough, I'll go to that because I think that might be more of a high stakes kind of game. So I'll, spend my money on that.
Well, there will
But
be at least game five.
exactly. And I've been looking and it looks like tickets right now are like $80. So it's not too bad.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll treat myself a little bit to some Clippers Mavericks action.
right.
But so what I've taken away, I missed the first game, and what it seemed to me at least is the second half of that game, Mavericks outscored the Clippers, but the Clippers just already had enough lead, so that's why the score was a lot closer. But it was definitely a blowout. Second game though, I watched from beginning to end, and let me tell you, a couple things I've noticed that Clippers had a lead for a lot of this game, and then Mavericks came back to get the lead, and then they just kind of kept it. It was very physical. The beginning of this game, no one could make a shot. It was like it was kind of not hard to watch, but um it was just really knockdown, drag out, physical. But what I've noticed is that, Kawhi Leonard played well. It's not that he played bad by any means. I believe Zubats had foul trouble, so they kind of took him out. They put Plumlee in very early in this game, which I think helped the Mavericks. I know Gafford had some injury trouble as well. The
In
biggest
both
takeaway is
games.
in both games. Biggest takeaway for me is the people who come to play if the stars aren't. So, first game, Clippers, Harden was cooking. Paul George played great.
Zubac was like prime Shaq in that game. He was down
Yeah,
in the
like
post dominating them.
they, they played amazing. So it was tough for the Mavericks to win. Game two, though, Harden not really doing much, doing a lot of foul baiting, not getting calls, thankfully. Zubac wasn't
Kyrie
on.
was in his shirt game two. He was like
Yeah,
he was so seriously defending him. It was like this is a little rival. It looks like he dislikes him.
yeah, it was especially, and also down the stretch, like Luca and Kyrie, not known for their defense, were playing like they were on their people.
Yeah, yeah.
And love seeing that. I will say, I think the only negative thing that I have about the Mavericks is that um there were some times you could see Luca was frustrated because he made a pass, and so like I remember one time he passed it to Gafford, it just kind of like bounced off his hands out of bounds, or Lively. It just kind of was, he didn't expect it,
Stone
and he
hands.
and and he got frustrated and he was yelling. You could tell like it wasn't like, come on, like do better. It was like very much like, you got if I he was yelling, and I don't think
Idiot.
that's, yeah, that's not a way to lead a team. And I
Right.
I think Luca, it was down the stretch, it was very tough game. Luca hit some really, really important shots too that were crazy. I mean, I remember Luca taking shots years ago, that he was when he was like a 30% three-point shooter, and I was like, well, why are you doing those? And now I know why, to get to the point he is at now. Because
He was always thinking about this.
he was always like, I'm gonna face the Clippers in
Just
2024.
you wait till I play the Clippers for a
Just you
third
wait.
time.
But I really, what I liked is that, the Mavericks role players came up to play. PJ Washington had a good game.
Who I said could be a breakout player candidate. I said that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Derek Lively played well when he had to come in for Gafford. And what was nice is that when after Luka would make these shots, then Kyrie would take over the offense, and then he would snake his way in and get a layup in, or a southpaw kind of floater that he's now, I don't know, famous for, but he got like a really, game-winning shot with that. So my takeaways are, the best player in the series looks like it's Luca,
Mhm.
and they're playing consistent, and at least what I can tell from this game as well. So it's going to come down to who can play the most consistent. So game one, Mavericks weren't. Game two, Clippers weren't. So let's see what happens this game, and we'll keep going. But it's this one. later I kind of put I want to talk about our favorite series so far. This one might be up there for me because it seems personal.
Yeah, just like Glen Taylor and Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lore. Um, yeah, Maxi Kleber at the 5-2 has made a return, which I thought with Gafford, the addition of Gafford and Derek Lively, that would be their kind of center rotation for the whole playoffs, and maybe Dwight Powell if you really need somebody because when somebody gets injured or in foul trouble. But they've gone back to the Maxi at five shooters on the floor lineup, and spacing Zubac out and stuff, and that's worked well for them. So
Yeah.
I wanted to point that out too. We didn't mention Paul George at all.
I did. I did. I said he had
Oh,
a good game in game one. And then game two, he was the only him and Kawhi were doing good. Harden wasn't playing well. Westbrook came off the bench, had he made some bad fouls. I don't know. He it's interesting because I like Russell Westbrook, but it seems like he's not making a lot of good decisions when he's coming off the bench, at least in the playoffs right now.
he's not. Keep shooting
Yeah.
threes. He shouldn't do that. He
Yeah,
knows
he's
better.
doing his like, back down. He was doing his backboard thing. He's been doing
Yeah.
that. I'm like, I saw enough of that in the Lakers, man. It's just like
Shooting threes is Russell Westbrook, not the move.
just lead the Clippers in transition. Uh, that's your job. But Paul George has been playing well. Like he's been doing well. He made
Thank
some big
goodness he doesn't have
shots.
cornrows anymore. My God.
I don't even
That
want
was
to talk
not the
about
look.
that.
That was not the look for Paul George. That's all I care about.
Yeah, but I talked quite a bit about it. But anything else you want to say about this series?
No, no, I think I actually think I've watched less of this series than the Thunder Pelicans. Probably talked about that one so much.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think it's more of a timing thing.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
let's talk about a series we both have watched, I think, quite a bit, right?
yeah, game two, at some point I was like, but oh no, game one, not
Oh
game.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yes, it's you, right? It's you. I think
No, it's you.
it's you.
No, wait, it is me. It is me. Sorry, sorry. It is me. I am him. Okay, Timberwolves, Suns. Here we go. 3 seed, 6 seed. Timberwolves won both games. So first game, blowout. Anthony Edwards has arrived. Superstar Anthony Edwards has arrived. Wonderful moment between Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant after
Oh, that might be the
Anthony
best moment of
Edwards.
the playoffs.
Yeah, he scored, made a three over him, and they were backing down, and he was kind of nodding his head like, "Yeah, yeah, that's me, that's me. I made that shot." Kevin Durant's just kind of smiling, and another layer. I don't know if you know this, but Kevin Durant is Anthony Edwards' favorite player
Yep, yep,
since he was
yep.
a kid. So I thought also that was just an amazing moment, and you could tell like they're competing. They're competing. Jesus Christ,
Jesus,
because I
we'll
was gonna
put
say
this guy
they're
in a podcast.
get me out of here. I was gonna say competitors. Then I said I'm gonna say competing. They are competitors, but at the end of the
They're
day,
competing.
they're doing that. I made a new word. Deal with it. So they are competitors at the end of the day. But they also love the game and they know what's happening, all the narratives and or the stories around these games. So it's nice to see a veteran understand that this young player is doing well. Devin Booker whines too much.
God, I hate
Um,
watching Devin. I
but I
don't
will
like it.
say, even though we don't like Grayson Allen, I do wish he was in the series. I don't know if he's playing game three. He got
He's gotten injured both games. He has
yeah.
sprained his ankle in both games, which is crazy.
Yeah, so the Suns are obviously I think you mentioned this to me when he went out in game two, the Suns just let the game slip away from them without anyone else helping KD and Booker. And I'm saying that because Bradley Beal has not been playing like the max player that
No,
he is
no,
at
he's been
all.
disappointing all season. I was really hoping he'd step
Yeah.
it up for the playoffs, but
Yeah, but just to kind of finish up my analysis, game one, Anthony Edwards was the guy, blowout. Game two, a lot closer, a lot grittier. Suns were in control most of this game, and then especially after halftime, I think the Timberwolves got the lead, like a 1 point lead at halftime. When they came back, you know, they just were able to uh, just make the shots they needed, and it wasn't thanks to Anthony Edwards. No, it wasn't. Jaden McDaniels.
Jade McDaniels had a fantastic game.
Jaden
So
McDaniels,
good.
man, crazy. What a great game. Career high in points and I think assists or rebounds, one of those two. And in a playoff game. So super happy for him. He defended KD like crazy. He made the shots that he needed to, and Anthony Edwards wasn't able to get anything going. So shout out to him for game two. It was a big reason why they won.
Yeah, I didn't mention this in our first two analysis, but we both picked Thunder and I think 5 or 6 for the first series, and we both picked Mavs and 6 for the last series. Both of those predictions still alive and well, I think. This one you picked Timberwolves in 7. I picked Suns in 6, and that's not looking too good. They cannot lose another game. But I did say it was a hard pick, and I did concede Timberwolves in 7 because I said I could see that happening. Um, so not too much of an L, but still an L. Suns have just not looked good. They looked very discombobulated. They look like a team that needs a point guard. They look like somebody, they the reason I thought they would win the series is because they had such good mid-range and three-point shooters in Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Grayson Allen led the league in three-point percentage, of course, this year. Um, but beyond that, they don't have any depth. They don't have guys to fill in those minutes, and the Wolves do. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been great this series so far. Mike Conley has been very good as their point guard. Naz Reid, sixth man of the year, literally. I mean, they have guys to come off their bench that are going to contribute, whereas the Suns haven't had anyone doing that really. Eric Gordon hasn't been great. Royce O'Neal has been kind of whatever. Um, Especially with the Grayson Allen getting injured in both games. It's really tough. They have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and then after that it's a lot of question marks. And their offense looks like a team that their players have been in and out of the lineup all year, and that's exactly what it has been. The Wolves defense have been a system. They've been stopping them. I think the Suns, in order to turn this around, they need to pick up the pace. I think letting the Wolves set their defense is a big mistake because they're the number one defense in the NBA with the Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Rudy Gobert. So, yeah, if you let them set up their defense, it's going to be an issue. And then you mentioned in game two, Jaden McDaniels. He looked like Mikal Bridges on on the Nets last year. In that game, he looked like that kind of player. So, that was really good. And if he can do that, not exactly that, but games like that, because Ant had not a great game, Cat didn't really have a great game. So if they can get that from him, not only this series but next series, I think they can give the Nuggets more trouble than I was anticipating.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're looking really really good
Mm.
right now.
I did say I regarding Cat, which I didn't mention, he didn't play super great game two, a lot of foul trouble, and I will say his decision making on defense was a little questionable. And I remember we specifically there was a moment where you and Kevin Durant, he was on Kevin Durant and he jumped up onto him, and Kevin Durant obviously got the foul call, and he already had like 4 fouls, and that was his fifth foul at the end of the game. So I
Was
really
that when he's
hope,
like he was like shaking his head walking out of
yeah,
bounds? I was like, what
yeah,
are you
yeah, yeah.
doing?
You're like, dude, you jumped onto him. So and then that's when KD got like three free throws. But
Mhm.
I want moving forward, I would like his decision making to be a little bit better on defense because he didn't need to do I hope he works on that because the offense is obviously good, and it's you could see from the series that the defense is gonna win it. So I just hope that he makes a little bit better decisions because they are better when he's on the court. So if he's not in foul trouble, then he can be on the court doing the things he needs to do.
Yeah. Let's move on to our
No, we could skip this series. Let's go to the East. No,
our
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
our last series in the West. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. Nuggets, Lakers. Nuggets are winning
Ah!
3-0.
I'm just gonna get a pillow and scream in it the whole time while you talk about it.
I had Nuggets in 5. You had Lakers in 7. Still possible,
It's still
though.
possible.
Still possible. Um, The Nuggets game one, it was close in the first half, and then the third quarter, the Nuggets looked like the Warriors a couple of years ago, where the third quarter would start and they would just kind of take off. And they end up winning that game pretty handedly. And then game two was really close all the way. The Lakers had the lead for most of the game, actually. I think up to 19 at a point, in the third quarter, and then the Nuggets started crawling back, crawling back. I want to say Anthony Davis had a fabulous game in the first three quarters, shot once in the fourth quarter. They didn't give him the ball. He couldn't, it's like the Harden thing from a couple years ago when he was on the Sixers and he said the ball didn't make its way back to me. And it was like that. What does that even mean? You're the star player. Go get the ball. Go demand the ball. Because he was having a fabulous game. No one could guard him. Aaron Gordon couldn't guard him. Jokic obviously couldn't guard him. And he was a big reason the Lakers were winning in this game. Him and D'Angelo Russell, 7 threes, I believe, in this one, were both big reasons the Lakers had this lead. And I think against a team like the Nuggets, the Lakers were basically playing the perfect game. LeBron was doing great. Anthony Davis was doing great. You have D'Lo hitting shots. Yeah, you could get more from guys like Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent, Spencer Dinwiddie should not play anymore. Um, but to lose that game on a Jamal Murray buzzer beater that was just an absolute bonkers shot that over Anthony Davis, defensive monster really. Um, is a heartbreaker. It's a gut wrencher. As soon as that happened, I was like, the series is over. Like they really needed that because they just played an awesome game and then barely lost. And then game three, Lakers started off 8-0. They started off hot in LA and it was looking good. And then in the second half, the Nuggets again started crawling their way back. Aaron Gordon playing a huge part in that. MPJ as well, hitting shots. You texted me, how do you stop Michael Porter Jr. from scoring? And I was like, I don't know. He's 6'10" and his shot is like 1 second. It's like super quick. So I don't know the answer to that. It's very Kevin Durant-esque. Obviously, he's not the same
Yeah.
caliber of player, but in terms of his height and shot making ability. Um, oh, I also wanted to mention going back to game two. Sorry, Jokic tried to get a foul call on like a half court heave. Didn't work. Aaron Gordon caught the ball under the goal and then passed it out to Michael Porter Jr., who hit a 3 to tie the game right before like the Jamal Murray buzzer beater. So it was just like it was like watching a car crash. Like it was just a disaster unfolding before your very eyes. And yeah, this is, when I was talking about my analysis in the series, the Nuggets starting five is the best lineup in the NBA. Yes, their bench is a little worse without Bruce Brown and Jeff Creed, but they're so good. You have to like play the perfect game to win. And I think the Lakers basically did that and they still, lost in like a heartbreaking buzzer beater. So um that's all I have to say. But resident Lakers fan, I am, I want to hear your analysis. I know you've watched a fair amount, this being your team, so
All right, so moving on to the Eastern Conference. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I have always known the Nuggets are this good. The Nuggets they're the defending champions, one of the best teams in basketball. I thought that them losing players like Bruce Brown and Jeff Green were going to make this series a bit more competitive. And Peyton Watson, shout out because he's been playing very well, and also Christian Brown
yeah, he
playing
volleyball
rotational
he
minutes.
volleyball spiked somebody's ball
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
last
that
night.
was I think it was AD. I really do. But so shout out to them. I want to, the Nuggets have been playing a phenomenal series, so congrats to them for being up 3-0. I just want to get that out the way because now I'm just going to be talking smack. No, I'm kidding. Nuggets have been playing really well. I just also so a few notes I want to say. So in all three of these games, Lakers have led at the half.
Mhm.
Okay. In all three of these games, the Nuggets start to come back in the third quarter. Seems like something's happening at halftime to the Lakers, and I don't know what it could be. First game of this series,
What's the halftime speech? What's ruining everything?
yeah, I don't even want to just guess what's going on. They're not even talking. They're just sitting in silence, just like praying. Like, please, 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 let's just make some shots in the third quarter.
Oh, I did forget to mention after D'Lo's awesome game two, 0 points in game three.
Don't worry, I was gonna get there. I was gonna do it. I was gonna talk about it. Don't worry. Well, so game one, I wasn't able to watch because I believe I had band practice or something. But I was keeping up with it,
Fake
and
fan.
I saw at the end that Nuggets basically took the game. Game two, I was watching quite a bit of, but then they had such a big lead. I went to a show, my friend's show,
Oh.
and was just sitting at the show. It was a comedy show, very fun show. It was just like laughing, having a great time. Got up and I checked the score like halfway through the show, and I saw Nuggets win 101-99. I'm like, what? No. And then I got home and I
Stop.
looked, and then I was like buzzer beater, Jamal Murray buzzer beater, and it was just everywhere. I could not. Being a Lakers fan on Tuesday was really tough. It was tough because it was everywhere, and I couldn't even like I follow the NBA on Instagram. I couldn't like their posts. I was like, I can't. It hurts too much. Also, funnily enough, for the buzzer beater, props to him. Great shot. Remember how when Anthony Edwards dunked on John Collins and then the NBA posted like, oh, he got up 13 feet in the air and the
Yeah.
ball was at this angle. They did the exact same thing for the shot that Jamal Murray did over Anthony Davis. Like Anthony Davis is outstretched hands, 8 feet 11 inches. Jamal Murray is at 46-degree angle. It's like everything. And I was like, you had to
The
keep doing it.
NBA hates the Lakers.
The NBA hates John Collins. Oh, that's what it should be. It should be who do you think you are? I am, and the NBA hates the Lakers and John Collins. um, so that was crushing. I can't say that enough. Game two was very similar to that buzzer beater Jamal Murray made. I think is very. I want to draw parallels to the bubble when Anthony Davis made that buzzer beater three to take the series 2-1.
Mhm.
Um, and to me, both those shots were kind of like nails in that coffin for the respective team. Because after that, the Lakers went on to go 3-1, then 3-2, then 4-2 series over. This series, 3-0 already, So tough to see how the Lakers can bounce back. I watched all of game three and it was hard to watch in the second half. I was yelling at my TV because Lakers they go on these scoring droughts,
Mm.
and it's so frustrating because you have people like D'Lo on the team, and like you said, he was 0 for 3,000. Like I swear, he took
After being
3,000 shots.
so good in game two.
And like I have been a defender of D'Lo because I think he's a very
Me
good
too,
basketball
because the
player.
media hates D'Lo.
The media
They
hates
really don't.
D'Lo. A lot of fans, like if you're on the other team, like they don't like him, and he has an attitude, but I think it's a fun attitude kind of thing. But regardless, he was someone that needed to show up game three, and he did not, which is really unfortunate. And then Austin Reeves. This game three was the first time I saw Gabe Vincent make a shot. I'll tell you that. At least he made a shot. And then everyone else, just it was just disappointing and they went on a few runs, but they could never catch up to the Nuggets because the Nuggets, thanks to Aaron Gordon making perfect cuts and perfect passes from Jokic,
He's
and
been really,
yeah,
really good.
and Michael Porter Jr. just making basically this is what it comes down to. Michael Porter Jr. scores more than like 10 points, the Nuggets win. It's like that simple.
Mhm.
Because Michael Porter Jr. isn't making like those threes, not kind of giving them that because he was the one that tied it up in the third quarter too, and also got them the lead. He's not making those shots. It's a close game. But to me, he's been the X factor for the Nuggets.
He's another guy that when he shoots, I'm like, that's going in.
Yeah, exactly. Very like smooth shot, and it's just going in, and it hurts me, but I'm happy for the Nuggets. They're gonna make it to the next round. I just want the Lakers to win one. Just
Go to game
wins
four. Go to game
tomorrow.
four. Shout it. Ah!
Win. And then they're gonna go game five in Denver and probably lose. But at least you're gonna win one. You cannot get swept 2 years in a row. You hear me, LeBron? You cannot get swept 2 years in a row.
What are the 11 and 0, right? That's the last 11 games. The Nuggets have their numbers, what people are saying. I'm like, no, the Nuggets are actually just a good team. They
Um,
have everyone's number.
they sure do. Anyways, let's go to the Eastern Conference because time is of the essence, as they say in the biz.
Austin Reeves
Um,
hasn't been as good as I want him to be.
I couldn't agree more. Last year he was him. This year he's um,
Not
not
him.
not him. Not him. Which is unfortunate. But you know what? We have the off season to work on it, I guess.
Yeah, I want, I guess we can wait until the series is over, but I want, I want to hear your thoughts on who needs to stay, who needs to go, like what's the plan moving forward. But we can
Yeah.
we can do that, I suppose, in once some of these series actually wrap up. I think last episode I
Yeah.
said, yeah, a series may be over, and I'm like, no, that's not how time works, actually. There haven't been four games yet, so I that was wrong. But next
Yeah.
week there will be some series, I'm sure that are
Yeah. I can think of one most likely that will be over. But you know what's not probably gonna be? Celtics Heat. Let's talk about this
Mm.
real quick. So Celtics Heat, uh, 1-1.
Yeah.
Heat stole a game at TD Garden. And I don't, I say stole a game. A lot of people don't like to say stealing a game because like it almost doesn't seem earned. I don't think so. It's just because you're an away team winning at home against a higher seed. That
And a
is
much like The so far the underdog.
So far the underdog. They stole a game, and I couldn't be happier because it's going to make this series a bit more competitive. So Celtics took care of the Heat pretty easily. Jimmy Butler is not playing, has not going to play in the series most likely. Actually, he definitely isn't going to play. But so Celtics easily kind of took game one. It was just a equal effort all around. Heat just didn't have anyone that could, just make shots. It was just wasn't working out too well. Game two, though. Game two, different story. 10-point win over the Celtics at home. The Heat could not miss from three. Tyler Hero, career high in the playoffs, and also a career high in points and assists, I might add. And they just couldn't stop him. And Celtics were struggling all game to make a shot, and that came to bite them. And the Heat were able to win game two. So, what do you think about this series so far?
Yeah, game one looked like a better team taking care of business. It wasn't really much to talk about. Game two, though, is really, really interesting. Got to shout out Eric Spoelstra. Always got to shout out Eric Spoelstra. Zero coach of the years, but this guy coaches his butt off. Coaches around other coaches. I showed a clip, not a clip. I was watching the game, and it showed Joe Mazzulla, and I thought, literally in my head, I thought this man looks like a Ninja Turtle. And I don't know if that's offensive, but like he showed up on the screen, and I was like, like that's the first thing that popped into my mind, and I just wanted to say that. Anyways, yeah, he hit a record, playoff record, 23 threes, franchise record. So yeah, they could not miss from three. Jaime Jaquez, it was guys you wouldn't expect even, and it was kind of the Celtics' plan was to leave the role players open that they thought couldn't beat him, or beat them. But yeah, it was like Jaime Jaquez, Haywood Highsmith, Tyler Hero, of course, Duncan Robinson, all kinds of guys just like hitting threes left and right. And yeah, you mentioned Tyler Hero. He had probably the best game of his career. He was playing a point guard role. He was facilitating. He was kind of breaking the Celtics defense. It was kind of like his own defense as well. And they just couldn't miss. And if just keep hitting threes, eventually you're going to win because that's the most points you can get in one possession, unless you get fouled, I guess. And yeah, the Celtics they looked very frustrated throughout this game. I think the Heat zone defense, again, we've mentioned it the last couple times in this pod. It frustrates them to no end. Frustrates every team, but their guys weren't making shots, whereas the Heat guys were, and that's kind of all it boiled down to. But I'm excited for the rest of the series. Honestly, I'd be surprised if the Heat win another one. I think it'll probably end in five, but yeah, the Celtics, should be a little irked, I think, that they're lost a game at home to this team that barely, inched into the playoffs without their best player. Um, and you're supposed to be this kind of world-beating team. Um,
Yeah, I think we both also said Celtics in five.
we
And
did, we did.
I'm also assuming when you said this, you thought maybe the Heat would win one game at home.
Yes, yes, yes.
I think the Heat might have another game in them because they have momentum now, but I don't think they're going to win the series.
Yeah,
But I think now they're going to Miami. I think Heat might get the next game, but then I think the Celtics will take care of business game four, game five, and game six, and just, you know. Not to say that the Celtics should win. They are a better team.
hot
But
take, hot take.
let's just say I wasn't gonna watch the series. I think I am going to now. That's all I'm
Tune
gonna
in.
say. I
I
might
feel
tune in.
similarly to our next series, the Cavs Magic, a series I haven't watched a ton of, to be quite honest with you. The 4-5 seed out in the East, currently 2-1, Cavs up, and none of the games have been super interesting, to be honest. No close games down the stretch. Game one and game two, the Magic rather scored under 90 points, which is something that I think we both talked about last time when we were predicting the series. It would be low scoring, it would be gritty. The Magic don't play offense a lot. They don't have a point guard really. They have, they're running a lot of lineups that where like Jalen Suggs is the only guard, and they would have like Franz, Paolo, John Isaac, Wendell Carter. It's like this
Hmm.
giant, massive lineup, and it worked really well for them in Game Three specifically. But Cavs won in game one. Donovan Mitchell looked like the best player in the court. He scored when they needed to, and that's how they won. Game two was not as much of a Donovan Mitchell game. It just looked like the Magic couldn't really get anything going on offense. Again, scored under 90 points. And then game three, the Magic just blitzed them at home, 121 to 83, 38 points. Probably, I haven't looked at this, but I would say that's probably the biggest deficit so far in the playoffs in a game. Just an absolute massacre there.
It is the biggest deficit so far, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, Paolo had a great game. He had 31. Second year, by the way, this guy's in. He's the best player on a five seed that is fighting in the playoffs, and he did really well. And then Jalen Suggs has just been awesome. Pretty much the whole series, running around, hustling on defense, kind of doing those things that he's known for. Which is good because I think I thought of him kind of as a bust-ish because he was drafted right after Scotty Barnes, and some people thought he should have went before Scotty Barnes in that draft. And his first year was really not good, and then last year was like okay, but then this year is like okay, here he is, and he's been really excelling in that role as a defensive guard. So I'm glad the Magic fought back. It was looking like a sweep for a little bit there. I think you had Magic in six, I had Cavs in seven. So we predicted a close, gritty series, and I'm glad that after this game three, it seems like that's more of a possibility than after the first two games. I was like, okay, the Cavs just look like the better team.
Yeah, and I did concede for Cavs 'cause I think the Cavs will win, but I will say I'm very glad the Magic did win a game because I watched a little bit of the first two games, and after I watching a little bit of those, said I'm gonna watch other games at the same time.
Yeah, because they have
It's just
because they
really,
have two playoff games on at the same time.
yeah. Well, I also NBA. Come on. What is that? How am I supposed to watch all these playoff games if you have two at the same time? So yeah, I was definitely watching a different game during these. But then you texted me. Why did the Magic win by 40 against the Cavaliers? And I thought I misread it. But yeah, I'm very happy that the Cavaliers are obviously more playoff experienced. They have players who have been there many times. Donovan Mitchell, obviously has the most experience in from both teams. Maybe Joe Ingles on the Magic, but
Oh man.
he's a role model. He's a role player. He's just kind of there to provide shooting sometimes if he makes
Right,
them.
right.
But yeah, I will want to watch the series a bit more now. I didn't watch a lot of Magic Cavs throughout this year at all. Um, but I am curious to see where it kind of goes from here. How do the Cavaliers respond to losing by 38?
This
That
seemed
is
like they
not,
didn't. They seemed like they did not care.
yeah, it is not a good way to appear, even if they are the higher seed, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you purposefully fell
Hmm.
2-4 to get this matchup.
Right.
It would look really ridiculous if you end up losing.
Yeah, I would
It's
say Jared Allen has looked pretty good. After
Yeah,
his quote in the playoffs last year, it was like the lights were too bright, and they got killed by the Knicks. He's actually looked pretty good so far. The Magic tried to start John Isaac at center the first couple games, and it was just not working because
yeah,
Allen and Mobley were just way too big. So that's when they switched over to the okay, we'll just run four people that are 6'10" or taller lineup, which is
yeah,
crazy. But
yeah. So I'm excited to see the rest of the series. Moving on to a series that we've definitely watched more of, and we just watched before this episode started.
before we hit
Milwaukee
record,
Bucks.
baby.
Right before, literally, we were like, if there's a double overtime, we're clicking record. We're gonna do this. I don't care. We're not waiting. So Milwaukee Bucks, Indiana Pacers. So, series Pacers are winning 2-1.
And we had Pacers in six on this podcast.
We sure did. Important to note that Giannis has not played in any of these three games.
That got
But the
pretty good.
Bucks, that guy is really good. And Damian Lillard in game one was prime Dame time, sinking shot. I think he made 35 in the first half. And then he made, I think,
Zero.
two or four. Oh, he made zero in the second
Zero.
half.
He didn't score.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it was game two when he made four in the second half. So yeah, first half, he went crazy. And I was like, is he gonna have a 70 piece? He was like, I'm good. I'm good.
Actually, we won already,
He
so
said, I'm all right. So yeah, Damian Lillard led them to a win. Bobby Portis was playing like he belongs in the starting lineup. He also referred to himself in the third person during an interview, which I thought was amazing.
Of course he
They
did.
said he was asking like, so Bobby, Giannis is out and you're in the starting lineup. How does it feel? He said, well, Bobby Portis is going to do what he needs to do for the Bucks to win. And I was like, this is my dude. I just loved that, and I had to shout him out. Game two, though, uh, different story. They could not get their offense going, and Pascal Siakam could not be stopped. He, I don't. Game three ruins the average for me, but in the first two games, Pascal Siakam averaged 36 points in the playoff game. Crazy. And your player, the only player on the Pacers that has a championship ring, when he shows up to play, inspires everyone else to start playing. So, Dame was playing pretty well in game two in the beginning, could not get it going later, and the Pacers just ran away with it toward the end of the game. And Bucks would inch closer and closer, but once the Pacers had the lead, it kind of stayed that way. And they won 125-108. Now today,
An
crazy. You
hour
thought those
ago.
games, yeah, an hour ago, literally. Game three in Indiana, Caitlin Clark watching sideline. They go to overtime.
Indiana
So
Fever legend.
Indiana Fever legend, absolutely. This game I started watching from the third quarter, and the Pacers had at one point like a 19-point lead, and the Bucks fought all the way back to tie it up in the fourth quarter. And thanks to a lot of threes from Damian Lillard, he looked like prime dime. He looked like prime Dame. I'm flipping vowels. Um, he looked like prime Dame. And they even got the lead a few times, but toward down the stretch of this game, like last 5 minutes clutch time, literally Pacers make a bucket, Bucks make a bucket,
Mhm.
Pacers miss, Bucks miss. It was just tied the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
time. And then, at the end of the day, it went to overtime thanks to Chris Middleton sinking a three and leaving the Indiana Pacers like 1.4 seconds. Went to overtime thanks to a floater, a nasty floater from Tyrese Halliburton from a play that we thought was not going to end up anywhere. Play a double overtime. Sunk a floater, made a free throw. Pacers win by three. Middleton misses the last shot. So great win for the Pacers.
Yeah, this has been, a back and forth series. Yeah, I was a little worried after game one about our Pacers and six prediction because they did not look like they came to play. Damian Lillard scorched them in the first half and then was like, okay, I don't need to play anymore. And they won easily. Game two, Siakam was the story for sure. He has been really, really good for them, a really good pickup for them. I don't think they would be even in the series without him. He has been so crucial. He's been probably the best player in the series consistently.
Yeah.
Um, and
Even in
then
the loss, he was still really good.
yeah, and then game three you mentioned was crazy down the stretch. I think the Pacers had 39. I think it was like 39-22 after the first quarter. Like they came out hot. And then they stumbled down the stretch. Tyrese hasn't looked amazing this whole series. He's been struggling. I think this game though he did have like 11 assists in the first half, which is like an absurdly high number. So he's been doing his playmaking thing, but shot wise he's been struggling except for that buzzer beater that you mentioned in the overtime win here. And yeah, I think it's interesting. Middleton gets the shot that sends them to overtime, which is a great shot, by the way. And then also the shot to try to send them to double overtime. No Dame there. He looked a little hobbled at the end of this game. So I'm not sure kind of what happened there or how much, if that's going to affect him going forward. Um, yeah, I wish more of the games were like this, close kind of down the stretch. I feel like the first two games was like, oh, this team won already, and the second game was like, oh, the Pacers are winning. And this game seemed like that, but then the Bucks kind of crawled back into it. Um, but yeah, not much else to take away. I think the role players for the Pacers, I think they just have kind of more guys, honestly, to contribute.
Yeah. But yeah,
Neesmith,
and
Nimhard,
yeah.
um, yeah. You
Yeah,
say something about Nimhard
I
specifically?
I wanted to shout out Nimhart and Neesmith. So Neesmith made the three that gave the Pacers the 118, gave them a 3-point lead.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nimhart, I think there was one possession where he got three offensive rebounds in
Dude,
a
that
row.
that possession
Wasn't
was
that
like
crazy? It was
four
like a
minutes
minute.
long. They
Yeah, it was,
kept
and that was
getting rebounds.
overtime. That was
Yeah.
already in overtime.
Uh,
Like
And
They
then your favorite commentator, Mark Jackson, hotter than fish grease. He was like,
That's him.
yeah, he was like, no,
Oh God.
maybe it's Mark. I always say Mark Jackson. It's not Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson is the guy that used to do it with Jeff Van Gundy and Mike Breen.
Yeah,
It's Mark Jones, I think, is actually
yeah.
his name. But yeah, he would like the Pacers get another offensive rebound. He was like going crazy.
And then the other commentator's like, yeah, so
Dude,
Nembhard
the
is
other
really
commentator is like Huey Brown or whatever. Hubie, maybe I think it's Hubie. He's like literally 93 years old. That guy
Yeah, no,
is
he sounds
so
like it. He
old.
sounds like Dust. He sounds like if Dust could talk. But I thought uh it was it was a really fun game down the stretch, fun to see. I'm glad it got closer. The Pacers needed to win this because they were up by so much. If they lost, I think that would have given the Bucks like steam. I think they would have kind of rolled into the next game a bit better. But now
Dude, he's actually 90. He was born in 1933. Holy
so he remembers
moly.
World War II.
That's
Jesus.
crazy.
Jesus.
It's out
But
here commentating. Oh.
well, good for him. I can barely afford rent, but it's good a 90-year-old man's commentating. I'm happy for him. He's a legend. He is a legend. But yeah, so I'm glad the series, Pacers up to 1. I think Bucks have maybe another one in them. What do you remember? I forgot. Is Giannis coming back at all?
Their report was basically like he's out for the start of the series, and that was the report. So
Okay,
they never really updated us. But the
gotcha.
last series we're going to get to, also a 2-1 series, the Knicks 76ers. This has been a fun one and a close one pretty much for most of the games. The game one, Knicks won 111 to 94. They kind of pulled away down the stretch. Brunson didn't have a great game, but the Knicks role players really showed up. I said Brunson would be the best player in the series. I was wrong. It's actually Josh Hart.
It's
Josh Hart's
actually
a
Dante
legend.
DiVincenzo. Come
Uh,
on, dude.
yeah. And then game two, this has been definitely the craziest game of the playoffs so far. Knicks win 104 to 101, but they scored 8 points in the last 20 seconds. The Sixers were up by 5 with 20 seconds left. Um, Jalen Brunson hits a three that bounces off the front rim up and in. And then on an inbound play, there's no foul call. Tyrese Maxey falls on the ground. Josh Hart gets the ball, passes it to DiVincenzo, misses a three. Isaiah Hartenstein gets the offensive rebound, passes it back, and then he hits the three for them to go up 1. And then the Maxey on the next possession is going down the court, like flying 100 miles an hour. He's been playing great this series. Tries to go for a layup, blocked by Hartenstein, and then the Knicks take free throws, and the 76ers don't, they miss their last shot. Just an absolute crazy win. And in the midst of that win, the 76ers filed a grievance with the NBA due to the officiating of the first 2 games of the series. And, to their point, the NBA actually admitted that Maxey was fouled twice on the last possession, and they didn't call a foul. And Nick Nurse was calling a timeout, and they didn't see him to give him timeout. It is worth noting that in the postgame press conference, Joel Embiid, quote, said, "Stop bitching about calls," which I think is so interesting because Joel Embiid is one of the bigger foul baiters in the NBA. He gets a lot of his points that way on the free throw line, and that's gonna go into game 3 here. Um,
Wait, who did he say it to? You didn't say who Joel Embiid said it to
he
or
said
said
it
it
to
about.
Nick Nurse, about Nick Nurse, the coach of the team.
Your head coach. Like, come on, stop bitching about the fouls.
And then in game 3, it was pretty close, but then down the stretch, the 76ers started pulling away at a 50-point game from Joel Embiid, who recently came out that he has been dealing with, I forget what it is, Bell's palsy.
Yeah, Bell's or Ben's palsy. I'll
I think it's
look up.
Bell palsy. And he has had like half of his face is like not moving correctly. People posted a video of him at the free throw line and like his left eye wasn't blinking, but his right eye was blinking, like weird stuff like that. So he's not even fully healthy with that along his knee injury, of course. Um, and a lot of fouls in this game, very physical game. Mitchell Robinson went up for a layup in this, and Joel Embiid grabbed his leg and then like brought him down because Joel Embiid was on the floor because Mitchell Robinson just like ripped the ball out of his hands and Joel Embiid fell down, and then he went up for a layup and he grabbed his legs, and then later in that game, Joel Embiid charged over him, called for the charge, and then landed on his ankle, and then Robinson limped off the court and didn't return for that game. So really unfortunate. A lot of pressure to Chua down the stretch, but he actually played like pretty well, all things considered. And Isaiah Hartenstein has played well too. But Joel Embiid had 50, definitely won that game for the Sixers. A lot of Knick fans in the crowd though at the Philly arena, not that far from New York. There were definitely times in the game where like Joel Embiid is getting booed. I'm like, wait, this is a home game. I'm so confused. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, this game, I mean, both of these games, the last two games specifically, have been so physical. They both teams look like they hate each other. I will say the NBA admitting about the Maxi thing, about him being fouled. Literally right before that, Maxi's running to inbound the ball and runs into Josh Hart and pushes him, and then turns around to try to grab the ball. So like that was a foul, and then Jalen Brunson grabbed Maxi's jersey. I would assume that's one of the things they're saying is a foul. Maxey does look like he just kind of falls. Like I've watched that play a lot. It looks like he kind of falls down, and that's why they didn't. They said originally that's why they didn't grant the timeout because he was like on the floor and didn't have possession of the ball. Um, but also like call the timeout before you inbound, like every other team in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't know. I have thoughts about that, but I
It's
mean,
been a
it
wild
definitely,
series.
it's been wild. It's you know been on the East side probably the most exciting series,
Hmm.
just consistently,
Hmm.
and it's been really fun to watch. Seeing Mitchell Robinson go out wasn't great.
Hmm.
I hope he's back for game 4. Um, Hartenstein had a lot of foul trouble in game 3, and Embiid was foul baiting it. And he definitely went into a foul. And that was really upsetting to watch that happen.
Also kicked
And
him in
that
the groin.
also kicked him. And this was when the game was like tied. This is before the Knicks before the Sixers pulled away.
Hmm.
So these are very important like free throws, and they had to take him out, and they brought in Precious, who did a very good job. I want to shout out Precious because he did a great job for what, for the kind of skill level he is at as of right now.
Right.
But it's hard to go against reigning MVP when he is, on the hunt for 50 points,
Hmm.
so about the game too, that the ending is just wild to me. I've watched it so many times. I think that him not seeing the timeout was really that would have gotten me the most upset. I think the
Yeah.
fouls, it was just kind of physical. I get it. Like I
Like the
think
whole game was physical. So
yeah, so I'm like that I get, but it was really the timeout thing. I can't believe he didn't really see that and grant it. I feel like it's happened a few times this season, and
especially in
I
such
I
like a
get it.
chaotic moment, it
Yeah,
seems
and
like.
I I get it. I wonder if he wasn't verbally saying it, but as a referee, you're not looking at the coaches to see what they're gonna do. You're looking at the action, right?
I just feel like
So
a
it's
lot of
like,
times in like a close game like that down the stretch, you know the coach is going to call a timeout because that's just what
yeah, like you
happens.
expect it. But maybe he didn't expect it because they inbounded. He's like, oh, I guess he's not gonna call a timeout, and then he just missed it. But
Right.
you hate to see it. I'm glad the Sixers won to make it an interesting series a bit more. Um, I wish maybe there wasn't so many plays that would get people hurt. I know Tyrese Maxey actually almost he had a really nasty fall. I think someone fell on him. It was OG. OG fell
Mm.
on him. And shout out to OG for trying not to, because you could see he tried not to.
Hmm.
But he hurt his ankle. But Maxey thankfully got up and was fine. But you
Maxey
know,
was, I think it was before game two, he was questionable, like because he wasn't feeling good and wasn't at shoot around, and then he
interesting.
played like a monster. He's
Yeah.
been so good all series.
Blue game. Yeah. But yeah, this is another series I think must watch for me. I've been really enjoying this. I love the physicality of it and how close it's been down the stretch. So I think they're playing also tomorrow. So
Josh
definitely be
bleeping
watching
Hart,
that.
man.
Dude, it's
I'm not gonna
crazy.
lie. I looked up Josh Hart merchandise. Like that's what the
Really?
series did to me because he played the entire game two. I think he played like
Yeah.
45 minutes in game one and all of game two. I'm not sure how much in game three, but he wasn't. He's never been a great 3-point shooter, so they've been leaving him open and he's been making them pay. He has been hitting shots all series. He's been hustling his butt off, getting offensive rebounds. He's like the greatest rebounder 6'5" and under ever. Like he's been so good on with that as well. DiVincenzo you mentioned has been really good. Brunson didn't have a good game until game three, and that's the game they
Hmm.
lost. So
Yeah.
it's really been the other guys for the Knicks.
Yeah, I just want to shout out role players. Nico Batum's been doing great.
Not
Oubre,
Tobias Harris.
not Tobias Harris. I think he made one shot that I saw in game 3.
Oubre
Kyle
has been good.
Lowry.
Kyle
Kyle
Lowry.
Lowry has been playing like
OG
like
mentions
he's
he's been
younger.
good.
OG has been good. So the shout out. This has been so far a game against the others.
Hmm.
Except for
Except game three.
making 50. Yeah, except for that. But yeah, I'm excited for game four. Favorite playoff series so far? Do you have one real quick?
Yeah, I think it's this one. I think it's Knicks
Yeah.
76ers. It's been close. It's been competitive in pretty much all three games for most of the games. It's been fun to watch. It's been physical, like you mentioned. I think I like seeing the role player step up in kind of those big moments. Um, yeah, I would say that, you hate the injury, you hate the. I literally watched a like minute and a half montage of Embiid fouling other people, like hurting them during that 50-point game. So that was not great. And I think we've both kind of been vocal about we don't love the way Joel Embiid plays basketball. I will say he was making a ton of threes. He hasn't been down in the post a lot because he's been kind of I think he's been kind of not scared, but like because of his injury, like he doesn't feel super
Yeah.
confident down there. But he has been shooting lights out for a guy that's like 7'1", 280 pounds or whatever. So
Yeah. I also think is he which I said during the playing game, he plays like he's a little tired. Like he has to get his composure back. So that's like another reason why he's just conserving his energy, shooting threes, and he's making them.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd also pick this series or the Clippers Mavericks because I love that's probably my two on the west and the east side. But
yeah. West, I would actually. It's only been two games. We'll see how game three goes. But Thunder Pelicans has been entertaining to watch.
oh, I thought you were gonna say Suns Timberwolves
That
because I just
I mean, that's been entertaining because I don't like the Suns. I don't like the players in the Suns.
I get it. And then Pelicans Thunder, I like both teams, so I get
Yeah,
it.
I like the young core of the Thunder kind of
Yeah.
showing up and showing out because I feel like a lot of people picked them to be upset.
Yeah.
Maybe not
And
by the Pelicans specifically, but
yeah, and just to finish, just so it is currently uh Mavericks Clippers are playing right now into the third quarter. Mavericks up 78 to 67. So 11-point lead going into the fourth quarter.
I don't know where my ball is. I think it's behind the door from last time, actually.
Oh, really? All right, you better grab it.
It is. It's
All
back there.
right. Well, so Damon said it earlier, but I just want to say thank you for listening.
Ow.
Send us your comments, like, subscribe, let us know what you want us to talk about. Send us money so we can go to these playoff games. Specifically, I can go to these playoff games.
My Cash App is.
Uh, yeah, if you know me, you know me. I'll just say that.
If you know,
But
you know.
we got to finish out the episode with a shot from Mr. Damon Gibson himself.
Hey, don't give out my government name, even though it's on the bottom of both of our screens. If
Oh
anyone
my
ever
gosh, I
wonders,
forgot. I forgot. Damon Johnson.
that's
Oh,
the
hit
closest it's
rim.
been in
That
a
was the
while.
close. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. It's very close. But thanks again for listening. We can't wait to talk more basketball. We'll update y'all next week. And yeah, this has been Two Men Game with Damon and Dom.
Buckets.